Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Kevin Powell. I love talking to bands, rather it be brand new band, old band that's been around for a while, but we're getting ready for Inkcarceration Fest 2024. It's happening in Mansfield, Ohio. I don't want to say too many bands to interview because that's good news for me. I have a lot of bands to interview, and one of which is a band that I fell in love with. I am joined by Ryan today. So Ryan, how you doing?
Hey man, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So I want to know, how does it feel to be part of this year's Inkcarceration Fest?
Really excited. I've been a part of some of the behind the scenes things personally on a professional level with incarceration, and I've always admired from afar as far as being, on stage. I've got to do side stage stuff. I've got to do some promo stuff and some media stuff, as I've talked with you off record, and now being an official part of the talent aspect is it's pretty surreal. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, we're doing this? Yeah, we're doing this. So
the days are counting down, so I can only imagine. So way back in the day, someone told me, if you're nervous, that's not a bad thing. That means you're just excited. So I'm imagining the nerves are getting there, right?
The nerves for a plethora of reasons. Number one, and this is going to sound crazy to most of the listeners, but this is Killstreak's first ever live performance. So we have climbed Everest and we're jumping off the top of the mountain rather than slowly incrementally making our way up. And I wanted to do that on purpose, set the bar high and show fans that might be interested in our music that we are official, legit, street cred, whatever. So I wanted to start with a big show. But the downside of that is all of the nerves, like you say, that go into it. It's our first time performing live. It's also our first time ever using in-ears and a click and all of these things. So we are really ripping the Band-Aid off. But with that has come a lot of prep and a lot of practice and things. So we're certainly ready for the challenge, and we really hope to deliver a good show for everybody.
And I think you will. I'm impressed. That's awesome. First show. It's going to be a great show. A lot of eyes are going to be on you, but you know what? It's going to be worth it. Ryan, what do you do in the band?
So I am guitar. I was, and I guess founding member, if you want to call it that, but I was the only guitarist until about a couple weeks ago. And then we just brought on a second guitarist just to add some beef and some different layers, because it's nice to, with music that we make and some of the complexities and some of the more layers you have, the better, the angrier it sounds and such. So we have two guitarists now, but I was the main guitarist on everything you've heard up until this point.
Okay, no problem there. How did you guys get on with Inkcarceration here?
So I have a pretty good relationship with Dan Jansen, the owner of Inkcarceration. Like I said, it's through my media capacity and other capacities that I've had, and didn't really expect to be on. And he just asked us one day when I was with him doing something else. He's like, "Hey, do you guys want to play this year?" I'm like, yes, definitely. Because we've always been of the philosophy of less is more. We don't want to be playing like local clubs every other weekend. We don't want to be staying in our city all the time. We want to really branch out and do quality over quantity, because I think that gives your resume a little bit more leverage, if you will. I think of things like a manager, because I'm a full-time music manager. So I don't think of things like an artist very often, and it has its benefits for sure, but sometimes I overthink things. But anyways, yes, he offered us to play. And like I said, very excited. And there's a couple of our friends of Killstreak that are on, like From Within is on, and they're good friends of ours. A couple other bands that we've seen throughout the previous years that I'm really excited to share the stage with now. And hopefully we can not just, perform, but build some good relationships along the way.
Perfect. So I want to get a little into the band now. Can you tell us a little bit about the origins of the band? How did you guys all come together?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I came up with this idea, and my vocalist and I debate this all the time on who was first, but I think we did this kind of together. I actually met him through his wife, who is a masseuse, and she was my masseuse. It's such a weird story, but we were talking and she's like, "Yeah, my husband's really into metal." And at the time I was in another band, and it was more like an active rock style of music. And I was like, I'm looking for something a little bit more that I'm more passionate on, a little bit heavier. And so I talked to her about it, like, what is he into? And she's like, "You guys should meet up." So we met up, and we were both like, we love video games. We love metal. What if we did something like Iced on Kills, where, obviously they write all of their songs about horror movies. Let's do that, but with video games, because I feel like a lot of bands, and I'm not trying to throw shade or not trying to, because I love most of these bands, but a lot of bands, wear jeans, black t-shirts, go up on stage and scream about their feelings, which is great. But I wanted to offer something a little bit more outside the box, a little bit more accessible. And as far as the entertainment industry goes, the video game industry is the highest grossing of all of the subgenres of entertainment. So being able to do something where we're writing different songs about different video games and we're offering listeners who might not be into like super heavy deathcore, but are into Call of Duty or Doom or Halo or Need for Speed. And they're like, I heard this song, not normally into this kind of music, but I really love this video game. So I'm going to listen to them more because it's just something that I can, gravitate towards. And it makes something a little bit heavier, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more accessible.
Very unique approach for sure. And it's definitely going to grab a lot of people's attention. The name, the style, the music in general. You guys just put out a new song, and it was around what, Need for Speed?
Yep, Need for Speed. We originally just wanted to do Underground, but then I'm like, let's just do all the Need for Speeds, because why pigeonhole there? And when we write music, we really take that video game to heart and say, can the person listening play the game and listen to the song about the game and it makes sense, right? We don't want to write a song about Halo, for example, and it to sound really horror-ish. We want it to sound more sci-fi, soundscapey kind of thing. And this Need for Speed game, I've already had people hit me up. It came out yesterday, and I already had people hitting me up going, where do I bill you for the traffic ticket that I'm going to get listening to your song while I'm driving? And I'm like, well, listen, we're not liable for any of that, but we did make the song with that in mind. It's a song you can drive fast to or play, Need for Speed really fast to. And we were really fortunate enough to have our friends in To the Grave and No Face, No Case on the track, which really just made it even more ignorant and beat down and just heavy and hard. And we will be adding it to we are adding it. We've already practiced it, but adding it to our set list for Incarceration. So really excited to debut that along with everything else.
Perfect. So I want to know, what's your favorite video game ever?
Ever. Okay. So I'm going to give you two answers. The first one is more of like a cult video game that people really don't know about, but it's called Dungeon Keeper 2. It came out in 1999. We're probably going to write a song about that. It's a turn-based game that you're essentially like a demon, and you have a dungeon, and you have goblins and imps and salamanders and warlocks and all these crazy things. And you try to beat like the good guys. You try to beat the knights and the all the dwarves and all that. So it's almost like Lord of the Rings in reverse if you think about it like that. But as far as my most favorite mainstream game, it's the Halo series. That's what I grew up on. I mean, I started with N64, GoldenEye, and all that, but Halo was really in regards to like the story, the lore, the soundtrack is amazing, obviously. And when we wrote The Fall of Reach, it was really cool to be able to take all of that nerdism that I gathered over the years from the game and put it into something that like other people could understand and other people could hear. So it's always really cool to be able to do stuff like that.
I'm not sure what all you're allowed to share as far as behind the scenes stuff with Incarceration. How long is your set for this year's Ink? Are there any challenges going into this other than it being your first live show ever? I know, so we talked about club shows for a minute. That is a walk in the park compared to something like this, because yes, you have in-ears, but so do every band there. Right. So now we're talking about frequency spectrums and all this stuff, and anything you want to share.
Yeah, it's been very enlightening. I like to think that from the marketing and the business side of music, I'm pretty well versed since it's what I do for a living. But when it comes to the production aspect, I'm as ignorant as anybody else in any band. And when I'm filling out these advances and when I'm figuring out all the logistics of when we need to be there, how we need to be there, what we need to bring, what we need to rent, all the equipment, all the in-ears, all the rigs, all that, it's been overwhelming at times. But I'm very thankful to have a team around me that is really good at what they do. We have a good production manager. Our second guitarist, who I'll shout out, Mike Skinner, he's also a full-time producer and engineer. So there are people where I lack in a lot of areas, they can pick me up. And that's really been a nice, comforting thing to think about during this journey. We do play 30 minutes, so 11:45 to 12:15 on July 21st, day 3. I know day 3 is tough. Trust me, I've been on the other side of that. You're tired. You're like, I want to sleep in at the campground, or I want to get there late and just enjoy the rest. But I promise it's going to be so worth it if you show up early, because like I said, number 1, you're going to see our first live show, whatever that's worth. But number 2, between us and Fight From Within and a couple other bands at the beginning, man, there's no stopping, and you only get this once a year. So show up early. That's all I got to say.
Perfect answer. Talking to Ryan from Killstreak right now. He's their guitar player. What bands are you excited to see as a fan at Inkcarceration?
So I would say, at least I know on day 3, I'm trying to think of the whole bill now, but Brand of Sacrifice, Era, my boys in 1056, they're friends of ours, Kingdom of Giants, Attack, Chimera for sure. Those dudes I grew up with.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yep, they're from the same city, and they great guys. Known them since I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. That they've opened their doors to me, so that was really cool to see them on the set. Bad Omens, obviously, and that's just a funny story about Bad Omens, real quick. So on your side of things, when I was doing podcasts, we were supposed to have them on my podcast, and March 13th, 2020 is a date that everybody will remember, because that's the first date that COVID happened. And I'm sitting there in the House of Blues Cleveland lobby waiting about 2 hours for their tour manager at the time, Matt, who's now their sound guy, to come out and escort us to the green room to interview Bad Omens, which in 2020, they were big, but they weren't like what they are now. And it would have been really cool. And he comes out after 2 hours of going back and forth being like, dude, the show's canceled. The earth is canceled. And that was the hardest thing ever. But I'm hoping that someday I can make that happen again. But yeah, Bad Omens is definitely one that I'm very excited to see as well.
Are you more of an up close and personal guy when it comes to being at a live show, or do you kind of like to hang in the back or anything like that?
It depends on the band. My moshing days are well over. When I was a teenager, and it's funny because I'm actually, when I was a teenager, I was like this really frail, skinny kid, but I moshed more back then. Now I'm like, if it's a band that I'm like super into, I try to get pretty up close. I know I just saw Amir a couple months ago, and I was like, I need to get barricade for that, because those
Josh Travis
just throw down. Yeah. But some bands are honestly better far away, because you get a whole experience of everybody. And being a guitarist, I focus a lot more on what the instrumentals are doing. I obviously focus on the front man like everybody, but I'm more attuned to those things. And done a couple of side stages. Like I was side stage for Spirit Box on one of their tours about a year ago, and that was pretty cool. But I will say side stage can be overrated at times. You don't get the same kind of sound. They're not performing for you and all that. So I know some people are like, yeah, side stage is like the best, clout thing you can do, but it's not as cool as people make it out to be.
I will say, if you have like those in-ears in, you get to listen to the mix or something. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to just take a break from the crowd. You know what I mean?
True story. Yeah.
Especially at Ink when it's going to be 1,000 degrees outside, but
it's going to be hot, and everybody is unintentionally rubbing against everybody else, and you are just, nobody's wearing deodorant. I mean, if there was anything, if I was a festival promoter, the one thing I would do is take a pool of money aside and buy free sticks of deodorant, like enough for 75,000 people, whatever it is, and just pass them out throughout the days. And the experience for fans would be just so much better. But what can you do?
After Inkcarceration, what's the plan for Killstreak?
So we're going to take a little break, just because of all the things we've done. We've had this release, we got Inkcarceration, all this. It's been a full-time job being in this band, which is great. But after Ink, we're going to start writing for our second EP, and the way we do our EPs, our first EP was called Deathmatch, and that was all first-person shooter games. So every EP is going to be a different genre of video games. The second one will be fantasy, so you can use your imagination on what fantasy games would be on there. But I can say for certain, the first single is going to be Zelda, which is my vocalist's favorite franchise.
Perfect.
And at the moment, it's going to feature Andy Cizik from Monuments. So that'll be
Okay.
really fun. They're both big Zelda fans, and that's the fun thing about this band is sometimes some of us don't know anything about the game. So, but even so, we learn about it and we look at the game synopsis and come up with cool lyrics and cool themes. And I know nothing about Zelda, to be honest, but I'm excited to do it just to learn about that. We do have a show coming up. I can't announce the details yet, but it will be in direct support of Signs of the Swarm. So we're really excited for that. That'll be in the wintertime. And yeah, we're just gonna be writing and performing when people ask us to. And I'm pretty excited for what the future holds for sure.
Awesome. How do you feel your band has grown since you guys first started?
Well, we've bonded more as people. I've been in certain bands where you go to practice, you have a good relationship with the people at practice, but after practice, you don't really do a whole lot outside of the band. And that can honestly, it can hinder some of the camaraderie when it comes to the creative process. And with a band like Killstreak, we are all very close. We all have pretty similar interests. That's why we all came together. So we're able to kind of do things outside of the band that really help within the band. We're all friends. When we started, we were all strangers. Nobody knew anybody, and it was really cool that through luck, I was able to come up with a roster of guys that all really mesh well. So and going through the guitarist, finding a new guitarist process, it brings you back down to earth because you're like, yeah, this is harder than it looks. Finding the right person is not necessarily the most skilled person. It's just everything. They have the all encompassing. So really, that's how we've grown overall. We obviously have a pretty finite direction. We know what we want to do, and that's a good thing because when we go to write, it's not like, what do I want to write about? Our video games are doing the legwork for us, if you will. So really the next steps are like trying to get some sync licensing done as far as getting placed. I've been trying to hit up the guys in Rockstar to get our song on one of the GTA 6 radio stations. So that would be
Nice.
really neat if that happens. We are happy as an independent band. I would, if we got the right record deal along the way, that'd be great. But right now we own all of our masters. And because I do a lot of the management stuff already, it's great because we don't have to spend the money for a label to do these things. But if we did get we've had some offers, but if we get the right offer, we would love to sign. But we're happy where we are and really excited to tap in because it seems like like I said, the fantasy EP, and then we're going to do a sci-fi EP and a horror EP. It seems like we're not just tapping into new games, but new fans of those games because somebody who plays Call of Duty might not play Final Fantasy VII, right? So if you're writing songs about other games like that, you should be tapping into fan bases you might not have already. So really excited for that prospect too.
Wow, you really thought of this, and I love
Oh
it.
yeah.
It's very,
Yeah.
really well thought out. Any advice you would give to maybe new bands trying to make their mark in the music scene?
Sure. Like I just said, find the right people. That's really important because you could put together 4 or 5 guys that are virtuosos at their instruments, but if they don't get along, it's all for naught. It means nothing. Also, something that I try to preach pretty often is treat yourself like you're already a big band because other people will view you as such, whether that's through your posting, your social media, whether that's through the shows you accept, whether that's just through the music you make, the amount of money you spend, what you invest in, what studios, what producers, what kind of marketing and promo. If you treat yourself, and even in person, even networking, if you treat yourself like you're already a big band, people will treat you with the respect of being a big band, even if you aren't. And that has a tendency to avalanche into something really, really great. So that would be probably my number one advice.
Anyone that's ever asked me, like, same thing, be professional, take it to the next level, best you can. You can't accept the small shows every single time. You can't accept the big shows every single time. Be friends with your bandmates. Have fun. That's the most important part. Just have fun.
And that's the thing that we want to bring back to, not to interject, but to bring back to metal in general is fun. We don't want to be, and I love Electric Callboy, but we don't want to be a joke band like Electric Callboy, but we don't also want to be take ourselves too seriously either. And I think that, you know, if you've seen our music videos and if you've seen the way we have certain things, it's all very calculated to the point of we want to bring fun back in the metal. We want, you know, good looking girls back in metal music videos, and we want cars and just skate parks. We did a video in, you know, we want to bring that era back. I call it the MySpace era, back when, you know, every MySpace deathcore band was just a house party music video. I want to bring that era back. And because what that does is that, honestly, it brings women back into metal. And we would be kidding ourselves if we didn't say women, especially younger women, are the tastemakers of all music, not just metal. And they're a very important part of what becomes popular. And I really am trying to broaden our demographic just from the, as deathcore used to be the Reddit males, if you will. I want to bring that more to we try to bring a pop sensibility. I know it's heavy music, but we try to bring a pop sensibility in the sense of broadening our music to all generations. And so far the demographics, at least on Spotify and things like that, seem to be lining up with that. So I'm hoping that continues.
Fantastic answer. Thank you for sharing that. Any final words you want to say to fans?
Go check us out on all platforms. All social media is Killstreak US. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those things. We just came out with the song yesterday. Like I said, Most Wanted, featuring No Face, No Case, Into the Grave, about Need for Speed. Again, show up early Sunday morning at Inkcarceration, 11:45. We will probably play a song you know, and if you don't know any of our songs, we will play a song about a video game you know. That is guaranteed. So go check out our merch as well. We got a merch store up on Teespring. Just Google our merch. And yeah, that's about it. And I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here today, Ryan. I love talking to bands, and I love just getting to know the nitty gritty stuff. So thanks for spending a little bit of your morning with me today. I'm going to talk to you here in a little bit off air. Okay.
Sounds good.
So that's Ryan from the band Killstreak. These guys rule. If you love video games like I do, you're going to fall right in love. Maybe one day they'll write a Sonic Adventure 2 song for me. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Anyways, you got to check them out at Inkcarceration Fest this year. They're playing Sunday at 11:45. I'll be there, so I hope to see you guys there. And thanks for checking out this episode of the podcast. We'll see you guys next time.